Hey everybody, welcome back to another installment of Conversations in Wire. I'm your host, James Browning. I am a sales representative here for the Softflex company. We are a jewelry wire manufacturer based out of Sonoma, California. So it's been a little while since I posted one of these videos, but today I thought that we would do another chainmail video. Today we're going to be making a double spiral, and you'll get a closer look at this, but this is a really easy link. The difference on this link that we're making today is it's going to be using 2 rings instead of 1 for the normal spiral. The reason that we're doing that today is because the normal spiral, just the 1-in-1 rings, they don't twist very well. They don't stay twisted. They look twisted when you twist them, but then when you wear them, they untwist, and then it just looks like just a link of chain. So I'm going to show you how to do this one so that when you're wearing it, it looks like it's actually twisted. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so once again, this is the double ring twist. Or the doubled twist. And there's lots of tutorials out there on how to do this. I'm going to show you my way. But if you notice, when it's just hanging here, it looks nice and twisted. It's a good spiral shape, right? Whereas if you're doing just a single, it's not going to twist that well. So what I will do is I'll show you what a single looks like, so you can kind of see the process, and then we will go back into the double to show you. So what we're going to need today is we're going to need a bunch of rings. We're using 18 gauge, and then the inner diameter is 1/4 inch. So these are the same that I used for my last project, which makes it easy because I had that 18 gauge and that 1/4 inch dowel, so I just made my own rings. It is time consuming and labor intensive, so if you would rather buy your own rings, that is an option. So you'll want 18 gauge and 1/4 inch inner diameter. Okay, so let's start with tools. We're going to need just 2 pairs of pliers. I personally like to use a bent nose and a chain nose. Unfortunately, I don't have a bent nose with me today, so we're going to try and get through this project with these 2. The reason I like the bent nose is because it does have like a little bit more surface area to use to grab the ring. So we're going to start with 2 closed rings for our main project, but for this first little bit, we're just going to have 1 closed ring. To help with your production, I recommend opening all of your rings because it takes time to sit there and open each one before you put it on. So just get them open and have them ready for you when you are starting to work. And like I said, we only need 2 closed rings because basically we're going to close them as we put them on. So first ring is just going to be simple. We're just going to put it right through, and then we're going to close it up. Remember, closing, we want to kind of work back and forth until we see that there's no gap. So that's a nice close. Okay, now if you look, I'm actually going to put these rings aside so that we can focus well. So if you look here, we're going to stack these so that there is a little opening right in between those. And then we're going to take one of our rings and we're going to go right in between that. And then we're just going to close it up. So now we kind of have a little stack of rings here going on, but we want to make sure that our stacks are successfully on top of each other. So they kind of look like that, yeah? Okay, and we're always going to be paying attention to the last two. So we're going to take our next ring and we're going to put it right in between those last two in that little spot there, right through that hole right there. And then we'll go ahead and close this one up. Now this link makes a great set of earrings, just to let you know. So then we're going to futz with it until we get that stacked the way we like it. So we can kind of let this one dangle. It's done now, but we want to go back and we want to find that opening between the next two. See, it's right there. Right there. So we're going to take our next open and we're going to thread it right through those two. Just let it drop and close it up. So here's where we start to see the difference. See how, like, it's not staying twisted, but once we put a clasp on there, we can kind of direct it to tell it where it's going to be. But the reason why it's so loose and floppy is because we're using a aspect ratio that is way too big for this single spiral. So if we wanted to make this look a little tighter, we would use either a thicker gauge wire, which unfortunately Softflex doesn't have at the moment, or we would reduce the amount of inner diameter so that our aspect ratio reduces. So that is basically the process. And I'm going to throw this down and we're going to get going on the double. So I'm going to close a ring really quick. Now, one of the things with closing jump rings is tension. A lot of people, if they are using their tools like this, you can pop that right out and it will end up making your rings fly across the room. The harder the material, the more apt that's going to happen. So try and use tools where you have a good amount of surface area. And what I suggest is to use your dominant hand to hold the ring and your non-dominant hand to twist it back and forth, because you've got more control of your tension strength with your dominant hand. So keep that in mind. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our first two rings and we're going to hang them off of one like this. So nothing special. First ring, we're going to just close that up here. And when you're closing, some people like to go a little further than what's there and then let go, and it will actually kind of snap back. They also can kind of hear a click because you're right next to that ring or the side of the ring, and so it will click because it's meeting each other. But the wire has a little bit of elasticity, basically memory of how it was made, so it'll go back to where it was. So if you just kind of overshoot it just slightly, it'll come back and you'll have a really close connection. And that's also another reason why when we're making our rings, we want to do flush cutters or saw so that both sides of that wire are flush, because that will also make a really nice connection. So I'm just adding another ring, so it's basically 2 and 2. So there we go, we have 2 and 2. And now what we're going to do is try and get that hole back the way that we saw it that first time. So I'm kind of twisting them, laying on top of each other, and finding that center hole. So it's kind of hard to see, but it's right there. So I'm going to take just one of these open jump rings, and I'm going to pass it through that hole. I know it's tough to see, but when you're working it, it will be much easier. And we're going to close it up. And then we're going to do that again, but it's going to be a little bit easier because we know where that ring went through. We'll be able to see it, right? So we're going to take that and just follow it right through. Oop. And try not to go through that other ring you just did. So we're just doing basically pairs of rings instead of one. We're not trying to do anything fancy with it. So we should now have 2 rings inside of 2 rings. So now we can make that stack like I told you before. And then look for that hole between the 2. The beginning part of this is the hardest. So once you get through like the first maybe 8 rings, you'll start to see a pattern and it'll get much easier. So don't give up that first couple of tries. It's going to be difficult, it's going to be squirrely. Just be patient and let it go. So right through that hole there. And nice close there. Okay, so we find that hole again where that ring just went through, and we're going to thread it right through. So the thing about chainmail, at least chainmail jewelry, is that learning the weaves is the hardest part. Once you've actually figured out how to do it, it's going to be so much easier and it's going to be therapeutic and you're going to want to do it all the time. Okay, so we've got our next grouping here. And we're only going to deal with the last 3. Okay, I'm trying to get it so that you can see where that hole is. Okay, so there it is. Right in there. So we're going to take a ring and go right through that. And we're just going to follow it up with another one. And it really is up to you on if you want to go down through the top or up through the bottom. Just make sure that you're not catching any wayward rings. And it should be fine. So that was 2. Oh, look at that close right there. That's not a very good one. So I'm just going to fiddle with it. Alright, so you can see that it's starting to twist on its own. So we're just going to let that happen and get the 3 group right there. And we can see how it's easier now. We can see where that hole is. And we're going to thread our jump ring through. Now for this project, you don't really have to open your jump rings too big. There are some projects where a wider open is better, but this one is not, so it's fine. Okay, so find our stacked 3. There's our hole right there. Oop. Runaway ring. Okay. I think once you've done about, I would say maybe 10 of these, you've got a nice set of rings for like an earring that's going to hold its twist so it will actually look intentional instead of just a jumbled bunch of rings. That's me. That's just, oh, see, here we go. I had already done 2, so this is good to check. So we're going to go back, find our hole. This is another pair that we're starting. I thought that I was putting on for another pair, so good thing that I stopped and checked. One of the reasons that you really want to make sure that you close these as seamlessly as possible is that the little opening can catch, and depending upon the material that you're using, if it's a softer wire, like I'm using copper, that's dead soft, and I haven't tumbled these rings so that they open easy, they will catch on stuff and open, and then you'll have a problem. So even if they're soft, if you close them really well, then you shouldn't have too much of a problem. Another thing that you can do if you make your own rings out of dead soft wire, if you don't have a tumbler, you can take each ring and then put them on a bench block and whack them a couple of times with a nylon headed hammer, and that will help harden it up a little. Okay, so we're moving on to another set here. See how easy it is to find these now that we've got a little bit of a something to hold on to and a pattern going. So it really is just the beginning part that is difficult. The other thing that you have to watch when you're doing this is tension, so that if you're using coated wire like I am, if you jump like that, it will scratch. So just be careful, take your time, and let it happen. Okay, so I think I'm gonna stop here because I think we've gotten the weave pretty good, wouldn't you say? So we've got a nice twist, it's dangling, it's twisting in the wind like it's supposed to, and chaining is really repetitive, so really you just keep going and just do it over and over again until you reach the length that you want. And I think I'm going to make these into little earrings. So all I would do is attach another jump ring to the top here, if you have smaller ones that would be even better, and then attach your earring to the top. And you've got a cute set of dangles. You could even put like a jewel at the bottom, like another bead or something. You can dress these up however you want. So that, my friends, is the spiral, double ring spiral chainmail weave. Alright. Well, I hope you guys had fun watching. I know it's been a while since I've released anything, so as always, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and leave them in the comment section, and I will get back to them as soon as I possibly can. And I hope you had fun, because I always have fun hanging out with you guys. Alright, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.